Live from the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 5 p.m.
Gunfire erupts at a video game tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. At least 3 people are killed, including the suspected gunman. Good evening, I'm Suzanne Marquez.
And I'm Peter Dell. We begin with breaking news. A deadly mass shooting captured on camera while the gaming event was being streamed live around the world.
Officials just wrapped up a news conference, and CBS2's Brittany Hopper joins us now with the latest. Brittany.
Well, Suzanne and Peter, a football video game tournament was underway at a mall in Jacksonville, Florida, when the shots were fired. Officials say the suspect has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He's identified as 24-year-old David Katz of Baltimore. People could be heard screaming as shots rang out. Police say an unidentified suspect died at the scene, and there are additional casualties.
We have deceased victims at the scene. We also have injured people at the hospital, and we will release counts later on.
The mass shooting happened as gamers were playing the popular Madden 19 video game. This man played Saturday and was heading back for the final round when the shots were fired.
I don't know if I'm uneasy about it. I'm way more upset that someone got this upset over a game than anything. It was just a simple game. It's nothing crazy.
Police say they've secured the area and are not looking for any other suspects. Now, Florida Governor Rick Scott says President Donald Trump has called him, offering any federal help needed in response to this mass shooting. In the newsroom, Brittany Hopper, CBS 2 News.
All right, Brittany, thanks. Stay with CBS 2 for continuing coverage of the deadly shootings in Jacksonville. More ahead at 5:30 on the CBS Weekend News.
Tributes are pouring in from around the world for Senator John McCain. The political giant lost his battle with brain cancer at the age of 81 yesterday.
CBS 2's Chris Martinez is in Phoenix, where people honoring the iconic leader who dedicated his life to his country.
Well-wishers in Phoenix brought flags and other mementos to a makeshift memorial honoring Senator John McCain. Military veteran Dan Rivera felt compelled to pay his respects.
He was a man from the heart. He always told you what he thought. He was a great guy, and his family was up there too.
McCain passed away Saturday at his ranch outside Sedona. The decorated Vietnam veteran, former POW, and 6-term U.S. Senator is being remembered as a true American hero.
Decades from now, little children to ask their parents, who was John McCain? And they'll explain his sacrifice, his patriotism, and most of all, his fidelity to do the right thing.
McCain will lie in state here at the Arizona Capitol on Wednesday on what would have been his 82nd birthday. The governor tweeted, "John McCain is Arizona, and we will honor his life every way we can." McCain will also be remembered later this week in Washington, D.C. He'll lie in state at the Capitol, and there will be a ceremony at the National Cathedral. Former Vice President Joe Biden and former Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama are expected to speak. President Trump, who often clashed with McCain, tweeted his condolences. The president said, "My deepest sympathies and respect go out to the family of Senator John McCain. Our hearts and prayers are with you." McCain will be buried at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Chris Martinez, CBS 2 News.
Senator McCain's dedication to his country touched people all across the nation.
Since his passing, many people have taken to social media to express their gratitude for his leadership in a very specific way. CBS 2's Lori Perez has reaction from those praising not just what he said, but how he said it.
The Straight Talk Express John McCain rode to 8 terms representing Arizona in Congress did not make a stop at the White House, but his 2 presidential runs exposed the country to his particular brand of respectful rivalry. In the hours since his passing, many are retelling one story in particular from the 2008 campaign trail when he corrected a woman who called Barack Obama an Arab with implied negative connotations.
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with.
Yeah, I was struck by the time he told that woman that Obama was not a Muslim.
Right.
That showed some sand, I think.
Sand or grit, bolstered perhaps in his 5.5 years as a Vietnam POW, a feat of survival that to many defined him beyond his politics.
I think his courage in staying in a concentration camp when he could have gone home speaks to his character. I didn't always agree with his politics, but it's always sad when someone like that passes.
Others who served are holding up his example. Vincent Miller tweeting, "I dare you to say anything negative about him. Veterans will not stand for it." Even those with less in common with the senator are defending his reputation as a maverick. Months after his cancer diagnosis in 2017, he returned to the Senate, casting the deciding vote that stopped the repeal of Obamacare. Milena tweeting, "Democrats aren't honoring Senator McCain because we agreed with him on anything. We are honoring him because he was a patriot. This is what we mean when we say country before party."
He was a unifying figure in a very polarizing time right now, and I think that I'm gonna miss him.
Lori Perez, CBS 2 News.
Both of California's senators served with McCain. Dianne Feinstein tweeted, "John's perseverance and spirit should serve as a model for us all. He was a great friend, a great senator, and my thoughts go out to his family for their loss."
Senator Kamala Harris tweeted, "My colleague John McCain will be remembered as a devoted father and husband, war hero, and a conscience of the Senate. Sending my condolences and prayers to his friends and family and to the American people who have lost a true patriot."
A big burglary bust for deputies in LA County this week. Security photos show the thieves targeting a home in Cerritos. Deputies saw the group and stopped them before they got away. Detectives believe the trio was behind recent knock-knock type burglaries in LA and Orange counties. Deputies arrested a man, a woman, and a minor.
The holy fire burning in Orange and Riverside counties is expected to be fully contained by the end of today. Firefighters are still snuffing hot spots along the rim of the burn zone. Nearly 23,000 acres have been charred since the fire broke out 20 days ago in the Holy Jim Canyon area. 24 structures have been damaged or destroyed. Forrest Clark is charged with aggravated arson. Well, another day of morning clouds followed by clear skies. A nice shot there of the Santa Monica Pier. A little busy out there. Meteorologist Amber Lee tracking our forecast for us. Hey, Amber.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Suzanne. A little busy and also breezy. You can see that the umbrellas there are moving around just slightly, and that's because we have that stronger sea breeze, and that's what's keeping temperatures a little bit cooler than normal. So again, for the second day this weekend, we're looking at temperatures going at least a few degrees below where we should be this time of year. 82 was a high today. Normally we should be at 85. Sun going down tonight at 727, and this is what it feels like outside. We have a little bit of that haze lingering with us, what we call hazy sunshine in some areas. Long Beach right now 79. You can see the breezes picking up coming in from the northwest with winds up to about 12 miles per hour. We're still feeling some warmer conditions inland, so low 90s for San Bernardino, upper 80s for Corona, 78 for Burbank, 89 for Lancaster, but then right when you get closer to the coast, temperatures are just slightly cooler where we have a little bit of the green here. But how long will the cooler temperatures stick around? Details coming up. Back to you.
Thanks, Amber. Broadway legend Neil Simon has died, and the tributes are pouring in on social media.
The playwright and screenwriter succumbed to pneumonia. He was 91 years old. Simon began his career in the 1950s, writing for Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows alongside Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, and Woody Allen. Later, he won multiple Tony Awards and a Pulitzer Prize for his Broadway comedies. He turned many of his plays into successful movies, including Plaza Suite, Barefoot in the Park, The Sunshine Boys, and The Odd Couple, which later became a hit TV show.
The sitcom ran for 5 years in the early 70s. It was based on the movie of the same title, which was a smash hit in 1968. Actor Jonathan Silverman played the lead character in Simon's Brighton Beach Memoirs series, both on Broadway and in the film adaptations. He tweeted, "Much respect to the genius Neil Simon. I had the honor of being in 3 of his Broadway plays, 4 of his movies, and I am forever grateful to him. The world has lost one of its brightest and kindest." Simon was married 5 times, including to actress Marsha Mason. He's survived by his last wife, actress Elaine Joyce, and their 3 children. Comedy legend Neil Simon dead at the age of 91.
He was a cultural icon. Well, how would a dog celebrate National Dog Day? That's how. Zoomies, diggies, and a whole lot more coming up.
But first, thousands of people gather in downtown LA to protest President Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court.
And the latest from Hawaii, where Tropical Storm Lane dumped record rain. That's next.